Hello there, welcome to the channel. Welcome back, perhaps. So, what we have today is something that has come together slowly this morning. But this is for a tune that we want to record for our Cover of Doom series. We won't go into the details here, but we did decide that we would try and use our goat's head fuzz sound here, which we have set up in this channel here, in contrast to our Fuzz Page Mark II module, both of those in the Jackson Audio modular fuzzes there. And the other thing that we have got in this channel is the horizont. Now, this tune that we are planning to cover has some wonderful psychedelic-y kind of sounds in it, and we figured we would try and exploit the horizont being in that loop for some of that. So this is basically going to be a process of structuring, first of all, that sound. We have gain staged the goat's head now and feel that that's okay, and we have the horizont basically refreshed somewhat in our memory. And after that, we want to put the walrus audio, after that will be the Strymon Night Sky, our usual kind of sustained pad reverb type effect. And then we will have the walrus audio polychrome. So the idea is we will have the sound of the contrabass going through the fuzz affected by the horizon. Then on top of that, a phaser affecting the reverb as well. The other thing, which we may separate into a separate video, is we also want to play around with some psychedelic type effects in a looper here with the Grand Canyon. Hopefully some kind of frippatronics-y kind of thing, perhaps. We haven't decided yet, but let us dive in first of all with a look at the sound that we've got. Now, this is our basic goat's head fuzz sound. And also I should mention that this is not the riff of the song that we will be using, but something that reflects many of its qualities, let's say. Here we go. Contrast that with our usual. There we go. Now, we have the dry signal of the clarinet going into the horizon, then into the fuzz. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like. So I think we can agree that sounds pretty fucking fantastic. The idea of phaser going into fuzz is something that we are very happy to be finally sorting out for ourselves. We're going to play around a little bit with the horizon now and see what we can find, because what we think we would like to try is actually, rather than having on like a regular kind of pulse there, I believe that here we've got it on a sine wave. We want to see if there's not a different waveform, and in fact we are leaning towards actually using a random slopes waveform that is in the horizon, can be a little bit difficult to find because of the waveform toggle being so small, but and then this brings us to something we'll be covering later. The polychrome also has random movement going for it. We had it set on that, we've now switched it back. And so we're thinking it might be a lot of fun to have random movement on the horizon and random movement on the polychrome. Basically, the reason for that is that this song is going to be, that when we actually record the song that we want to, it's a very repetitive groove. It's the riff. I love it. I could play it over and over again. However, I want to try and make the sound of the clarinet, like the tone, something that will also sustain interest and that we can bring aspects in and out of to sustain interest. So let's play around with the horizon a little bit. So what we've actually got there is a square wave. You can hear that actually is making it through the sound gate a little bit there, but not the end of the world. Basically, this is going to help us establish what kind of depth range we're looking at with the depth control here. Yeah, it does seem that having the depth all the way open means that we are losing some of the effectiveness. Like, it's better to find the point at which the depth has the most resonance for the sound that we're actually working with. Speed, I think, is something that's going to be relative to the waveform that we're using. The other thing that we want to take a look at, though, and maybe we'll go back to a sine wave for this, are these M phase controls here, which add, as the word suggests, some emphasis to different frequencies. Let's dive in and see how that goes. Do you know what? I think for this I'm going to use another sample I recorded, which is just a low E on the clarinet. Yeah, that's got a really nice pulse to it. Numbers 1 and 2 were they seem to take away too much. I'm not sure if the emphasis section emphasizes by taking things away, but yeah, if anything, we want to use number 3, but maybe not even that. Let's see. Let's play around now with the waveform, and let's see if we can find that random slope. After just trying with the actual phrase one more time. Yeah. Okay. So we also played around a little bit with the mix control there. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to that low E again, and we're going to make sure that we are actually working with random slopes here. And here are the difference between random slopes, random waves, which I don't think we'll be able to tell unless we bring that spurt or speed control down. Okay, I think it's safe to say that that is random square waves. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's interesting for something else, not for this. Okay, let's see if we can find random slopes. Yeah. Yeah, there's something very entrancing about that. Let's give it a try with the riff. Just to contrast. Yeah. That's very nice. I'm really happy with how that's coming along. It's nice to have something finally figured out for the horizon going into the goat's head specifically there. And quite frankly, it's really nice just to have the goat's head up and running as part of the tone bank there. Okay, let's see how that sounds through some what's it called, a pad reverb type stuff, and then we will see about adding the polychrome. Yeah. A couple of little adjustments to the horizon there, seeing as there's the other stuff in there too now, but I really like the way that that's coming through, and I think it's a really quite a unique effect there. That's really quite satisfying. Okay, that brings us to the polychrome. Let's see how this goes. First of all, let's try without the horizon, and also I think we'll keep in the night sky just so that we get the full sweep of the phaser. We will not try the riff either. We will try the low E. Yeah, we're going for something a little bit more subtle there. I'm not sure if the voice was making a huge difference. Let's have a listen to that with the riff, and then maybe we'll see how it sounds with the random waveform. Okay, so it's difficult because, I mean, flanger is one of those sounds where it's both like subtle but not subtle. Um, and it's trying to find the balance between the subtle aspects and the less subtle aspects. But that random wave shape really is quite delicious. Okay, let's see how the whole thing sounds together. We will start with just the low E, and what we're going to do is build it up for dramatic effect. So we'll start with just the fuzz and the night sky. Not subtle. Yeah. That's very pleasant to my ears. Let's do the same for the riff and take it from there. like what that's doing. And obviously there is some room for improvement there, but overall that is very pleasant. Well, there was one more thing that we wanted to look at, but I think that we will come back later, and for now take a little break, because that has been a great deal of fun. I hope that this has been an interesting and enjoyable experience for you too, at least as interesting and enjoyable as it's been for us. And please join us again sometime. In the meantime, be well.